Welcome to Bear Corner. We are here live in the arena.
Shaking things up.
Yeah, we're switching it up. We have a signal out here. Hi, Gail. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to introduce ourselves. I forgot to add.
Our special guest. Yeah.
Special guest last minute.
Yeah. My name is Nicole, but more importantly, this is Brian.
Perfect. Brian, my name is Andrea, Animal Care Manager. Thanks for tuning in. We have Gail and Helen tuning in to Bear Care Corner here live in the arena. Switching it up, a little different. It's a nice day. We're expecting a bit of rain. It's been a little bit sprinkling.
Humid, yeah.
It's humid. There's some clouds. We're going to give you some arena updates because we're not often out here talking about the arena. There is a lot going on.
There's a lot happening in here.
Brian
it's quite exciting.
Is here.
Yeah,
Brian lives in the arena.
That's the most important thing that everybody needs to know.
Highlights. Brian, if you weren't aware, is a hen who we thought was a rooster when Brian was a baby, and I'm still pretty convinced, even though he lays eggs. It's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated, but this
doesn't matter.
This is a baby rooster.
Look at the comb and wattles. I've never seen a hen with such supple and elongated comb and wattles. So if you have any questions during the program, let us know in the comments, and we'll try to catch them live. Hi, Sylvia, Helen, Mary, Isa, Sylvia, Helen, Gail.
The gang. Hey.
We're all here.
Amazing.
For some resident updates from Brian updates. Brian's going to tell you about some things. We have a lot going on. Like usual, seasons are changing. Residents are doing some pasture rotation. So I don't think you can see them from here. We were going to set up a bit further down, but then I lost my connection. So I don't want that to happen. But Obama's herd is in this section, and they're grazing outside that way, which probably doesn't mean much to you, but we'll be showing some photos and videos on our socials.
A lot of cute photos. Yeah.
What's happening with that group with their pasture?
So due to, basically it's a couple different things. So normally in the spring, we gradually start to increase the goats and sheep onto pasture anyways, just to avoid some GI upset. So normally in the springtime, we keep the goats and sheep off pasture to give the pasture a chance, give the grass a chance to grow in, and then we gradually start letting the goats and sheep out for short increments, and then basically gradually increase that time daily as long as they're doing well. So we look out for signs of GI upset, like diarrhea, bloat, that kind of thing. Thankfully, nothing too bad. We've had a couple loose stools here and there, so we're always reassessing.
Yeah, it's quite the shock from hay all winter to lush spring grass. So it is quite a process of timed.
Yes.
Our alarms went off at 1 p.m.
Yes, exactly. So they'll be going back home to their end of the arena shortly. But then to kind of complicate matters as well, we also had some lungworm in the herd.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly.
Nowhere.
Yeah. So this is. Normally we do our spring fecal testing a little bit later in the season once they've been on pasture for about a month-ish, I think.
So, yeah.
But kind of before all of that started, we had some lungworm in the herd, so that deworming them, we've also had to keep them off of their regular pasture, which brings us to pasture rotation, which all of us,
this could
Brian,
be its own episode. We weren't planning on a whole pasture rotation episode, but
I mean, it might be
talk
that.
about it a little bit.
Because right now, so that the pasture that Obama's herd is grazing right now was a pig pasture. So April's herd has had access to that pasture. Sammy's herd, I think more recently, has had access to that pasture. So for now, the goats and sheep are on it for a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks.
We're going to be 2 week on, 2 week off rotation.
Exactly. So once they've been on that pasture for 2 weeks, they will go back to their regular pasture, and then we'll have pigs out grazing on the pasture that the goats and sheep are on now.
We have a whole spreadsheet. Kind of the Coles notes of that is every 2 weeks they're going to be rotating. We have 2 main pastures, and then every 2 weeks they're going to rotate off to reduce the risk of parasites and resistant parasites, because some of them have been dewormed for lungworm, and they were also dewormed with ivermectin. So the worst thing that could happen is with the exposure of drugs like ivermectin, like antiparasitics, that could increase the load of parasite resistant resistant parasites in their system.
Yes,
which is
which is something that we are desperately trying to avoid,
Yes.
Because there are not a lot of drugs available for deworming. I mean, in general, but especially for goats and sheep. And over time, thankfully, we haven't had too much resistance, but just generally out there in the world, the resistance to those drugs is definitely growing. So basically, you can get to the point where you're having a very, very difficult time trying to reduce those amounts of parasites in the goats and sheep. So we are trying to avoid that as much as possible.
It can cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, responsible deworming practices are what we're very focused on.
What would happen maybe 10, 15 years ago, just generally people would just deworm at the beginning of spring.
Yeah,
and that
just
caused
automatically.
a lot of issues with resistant parasites, which is dangerous.
Yeah, it can be very scary because
put you up against a wall when you don't have any drugs left to use.
Exactly.
So we're trying to, especially being new at the property here. This is kind of their first time out. So yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah, hoping to start off on a good note. Yeah, it's exciting being at the new property, like our first real spring here. So getting the bogs built, kind of figuring out just everything, I guess, kind of how we had the same challenges in the winter, or kind of just figuring out, how this property does in the winter. Now we're figuring out how it does in the spring, and how it'll do in the summer.
And where the mucky areas are, and where the best spots for bogs are. Like we've definitely put them out where the water hoses are, which makes it very convenient for filling. But they're on a bit of a hill, so it's like some management there. So a lot of things that we're constantly figuring out. We know that we want and we need, but figuring out how that works at this property, because it's quite a different property.
Yeah, very different.
Quite vast, but also not a ton of trees in most of the areas, so getting shade for the pigs.
Yeah, our sunshades, I'm guessing, will be coming up very soon. Fly spray and sunscreen season is starting as well. Like Abraham, since he's been shorn a little bit, we'll need some sunscreen. Yeah, the pink pigs.
Even the darker pigs that have some pink on their legs, they can get burnt.
Fiona, I was surprised. I think a little bit earlier this spring, there were a couple days where there was pretty high UV kind of randomly, and she had a little bit of a pink tint, and she's not very dark, kind of like light brown, pinkish. But yeah, I think last summer, maybe even Hercules got a little bit of a tint, even on his dark skin. Yeah. So you'd think that it's just the light-colored pigs who are susceptible to it, and they're definitely more susceptible, but we've definitely seen almost like borderline sunburns with some of the darker pigs as well. So yeah, we're getting into that season. Flies as well.
We're getting fans into spaces, kind of figuring that all out, getting the birds outside, because right now they're in the arena space. It's Brian in here. Sorting all that out, getting all those areas netted. Duck Pond is getting worked on. It's right beside us over here.
It's finally happening.
The liner is here.
That's what we've all been waiting for.
All these rocks behind months. Nicole are ready to go into kind of, I don't know where they're going, but that's...
Kevin knows.
Yes, there are plans. So that's happening. That's very, very exciting. Oh, we do have a question from Helen. How old is Brian?
4 or 5?
I don't know if he's as old as 5.
No, I think not 5.
I'm trying to remember because he arrived as like a teeny baby, and I'm trying to remember
And Rick was already here, right? Today's Rick's 3-year anniversary
of them together.
So
not in the same.
But did they come in the same year? Because I know it was while I was away at school for the summer. That for sure I remember.
Because Ricky was May 2022. Happy rescue anniversary, Enrique.
Wow.
3 years on the day when you just showed up on Friday the 13th.
Oh my God.
It was a Friday.
And today's a full moon.
Yes, and we know it's a full moon, one, because we have phones that tell us, but I think I knew before I looked at my phone with how everybody was acting this morning.
The energy today was outrageous. I
was kind of joking, like, is it a full moon? Because there was so much happening, and then I looked on my phone and
Obama was a bit outrageous. I love how we don't know. That's why we have the database.
This is why we
check.
have
because we
can't born summer 2020.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay, so they arrived the same, because he would have arrived.
They came around
fall
the same
2022,
something like that. Yeah. Okay.
So
amazing.
Almost 3. Yeah, I didn't think he was quite 5.
Oh my gosh.
Just a baby.
Yeah, just a baby rooster.
Thank you
Oh my
for
gosh.
questions and comments. Thank you for taking such good care of all those beautiful animals.
Oh,
Thank you
for
for your
supporting
support.
us.
So wonderful. I also wanted to mention our auction that we have running now. So there's an online portion that's running until May 24th. Lots of amazing items in there donated by all these amazing folks. It ends on 10 p.m. on the 24th. And then we have a live auction on the 25th. Time TBD. And I don't know if you've looked at it. It has its own page on Facebook. So you can go in and put your bids, scroll through, and all that proceeds go directly toward resident care and everything we have going on here. I finally looked through this morning. There's some amazing things in there.
Amazing.
Staff has donated some stuff. Wait.
I'm kind of doing like
preening?
a little, yeah, I did like a little scritch on his chest. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
Okay, Brian, I think is done being held. Maybe Brian, do you want to go
wanna
back home?
Oh my goodness. All right.
We've used up our Brian minutes. Brian is
Okay, let's
going
go.
back home. Yeah, so the link to the auction's in the comments. So you can click on that and scroll through, and there'll also be a live auction with things that aren't currently on the online auction, which is very exciting. That's coming up on May 25th. So tune in on that day. Again, if you're just tuning in, we are here live in the arena. I hear, what kind of bird is that? There's like birds chirping above us.
The swallows, maybe?
I can't tell what that is. Like something like right above us.
Possibly swallows. I've seen starlings in here as well. Not as many though. I don't know. I'm not as good at my bird calls yet. We can check
there.
we can check the Merlin app. But
get on it right now.
Yeah, there's for sure starlings around sometimes. Definitely swallows. I think that's all who I see in the arena now.
There was pigeons earlier, and people have asked us because
Yeah.
we're concerned about HPAI, which is highly pathogenic, avian influenza, which is currently spreading in certain regions. It's not too bad here right now, which is good.
Thankfully, yeah.
It kind of picked up during migration because you have like waterfowl that's migrating with their droppings could even, but we're putting netting over everything so the birds won't have access to the directly above our birds, so that's kind of part of that protection for them because that's a very contagious and horrible disease
something
that we've been keeping an eye on.
Yeah, something we think about a lot and we're constantly reassessing as well because it's very scary.
Yeah, avian influenza has been around forever, but the highly pathogenic variant of it has been really popping up over the past few years, and we're keeping a really close eye. And I remember it was maybe even 3 years ago where we started to kind of really focus in and see where that was happening.
Yeah, because I think that first year that it came, that summer, it was like very bad. I think that was a summer that basically all the birds were on lockdown most of the summer.
Yeah, a number of months where we were changing scrubs or Tyvek suits and only staff was going in there. We were being very careful because you could do something like walk around, the
Pick
tread of
something
your
up on
boot.
your boots.
So doing a scrub on your boots, disinfecting your boots, changing boots, all of those things were put in place. We're not at that stage right now. They're very protected in this area.
Yes.
And then they'll be outside where there'll be netting for predators, and if there are increased risks, then that's where we would bring them back into the extra protected. Something we don't want to have them exposed to. It's very contagious. It's very deadly in cats, and there has been some species jumping. There have been cases of cats getting it, and also cows.
Yeah, so things that we're definitely keeping our eyes out for because it's
something we think about all day long.
Meetings
about. We're always trying to figure out all these different things to keep the residents safe and healthy because that's what we do 24/7. It's a 24/7 operation. There's people here all the time. Nicole here all the time. I'm here all the time. Having meetings all the time. We've had like 3 different meetings the last 24 hours.
Basically,
about all the different things that are going on. We're going to be talking about Ray this week in our staff meeting, what's happening with him. I think we did an update maybe on Barnside if people weren't aware of his current situation with his teeth.
Yeah, so we had concerns about Ray's teeth, kind of casually low level over the last at least couple months, and maybe even longer. Things like very smelly breath, dropping hay while he's eating, still maintaining his weight, but dropping feed more than usual.
Definitely maintaining his weight.
Yeah, he's definitely maintaining. So we had him in at OVC to have a sedated dental exam.
Yeah, because you don't really want to mess around with, smelly breath plus a few other clinical signs.
Yeah, definitely. It was enough that we were concerned.
Things can go bad really
very
quickly.
Or
affect adjacent areas, which Nicole's about to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So they did the sedated dental exam. Pig mouths are very large and very strong, so you cannot get a good look in there without sedation. He did very well. So they found a number of things, some missing teeth, some dental disease, but the most concerning thing was the lower left, right? The lower left tusk.
Yeah, I know it's lower. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
Left?
I think, well, one of them, they're most concerned about that one, like the presence of an abscess around the
Deep
root.
in.
Yeah, deep in, and the roots of the tusks are very deep set and they kind of curve into the jaw as well. So it's a tricky spot to deal with any potential infection. A lot of antibiotics don't really have great penetration for teeth as well. So kind of what we're trying to decide on right now is our course of action, because there is a pretty high risk of like osteomyelitis, so an infection into the bone of the jaw, which can lead to, the jaw actually breaking, pain, discomfort, an infection that can become systemic and become much worse if that's left untreated. However, unfortunately, that surgery, like that tusk removal, does have very high risks as well. One of them being that the lower jaw can actually break trying to remove that tusk, which is similar actually in cats and dogs. Like removing that lower canine does have that risk as well. So that's kind of something that we're, talking to our vets, weighing out our options, kind of figuring out what the best course of action is, because unfortunately with a lot of the cases that we're dealing with, there's not a lot of information out there.
This might not have ever happened before or been brought to our vet. We're going to have the discussion of, has he done this before? Success rate, we know there's risks, like Nicole mentioned, even in cats and dogs. Those surgeries can be quite risky. So we are weighing our options. We're in the middle right now of a 4-week course of antibiotics, but like Nicole mentioned, there's not great penetration in teeth. Generally he's on Clavamox, and then after the 4 weeks is up, he's booked on May 22nd for a recheck. So again, they're going to sedate, reshoot those rods, see if there's been any change to that abscess area, because if there's a chance that it has gone down, if the antibiotics have worked a little bit, then we might be able to extend the antibiotics and go monitor from there if we could get that under control. But the chances of that are pretty low, but you just don't know until you actually do all this stuff. So that's what we're in the process of.
Unfortunately, some of more meetings, some of the difficult things that we kind of have to think about and decide.
Weighing the pros and cons of these type of things, and sometimes you just don't know, but you go by what your vet's saying, go by, quality of life. Like Ray is doing an amazing, he's doing an amazing job. He's doing amazing right now.
He's doing an amazing job.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job right now. So he has that going for him. So we'll keep you posted about him and what those results look like on the 22nd. Thank you, Helen. Thank you everything you guys do for the residents.
You're
amazing, Helen. That's so nice. That's the kind of stuff that just keeps us going.
Definitely.
Encouragement of our supporters, even comments, all these type of things.
It
just
warms our hearts.
what we're here for.
We're
here for the residents every second of the day, and just figuring out what the best thing for them is.
Oh, poor Ray.
Can the antibiotics be injected?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, we can talk, that's something we can discuss with our vet team as well, because typically oral antibiotics don't do great in pigs. So in certain cases we have done injectable antibiotics, and we've had better
literally
luck
add
with
that to the list right now, because I have a list of questions we're going to ask him, and I am pulling up my phone to add that, because I didn't add that. One of my questions was, has he done the surgery before?
Yes.
And there's a few other, but I'm going to add that.
Yeah, that's a great one, because I'm trying to think, in cats and dogs anyways, there's a certain class of antibiotics that's typically used for more advanced dental disease that does tend to have better penetration for dental disease, but unfortunately that information, it might not be the same for pigs, or that information might not be available. But I mean,
could be limited.
Sometimes we kind of just have to extrapolate, or doctors kind of have to extrapolate from small animal medicine, or I mean even human medicine. Sometimes pigs are pretty similar to pigs on the inside. So I mean, that's also a great consideration. And then of course we also have to consider quality, the ease of dosing as well. Some pigs are good with injections, others not so much. So
most not.
Try
to think who is, or who's less fussed about it.
I remember when we discovered the dislocated dew claw on her back left, when she was getting, I forget the timeline, but she was getting lots of injectable antibiotics.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, me too.
Things happen and you just keep going and there's something else that happens.
Yeah, and I think something similar with Jolene as well, that she was on injectable antibiotics for that abscess that was on her hip or knee area for a while. And they were both pretty good, but towards the end of it, they were not, which is fine. I mean, it's a lot for us. It's a lot for them.
I don't remember. I thought it was Ray that we did in the Zimpro. Remember the slap shot?
I don't remember.
I don't remember if it was Ray, but I remember doing somebody with a slap shot because it was quite dramatic. When we do so we vaccinate ourselves. That way we can get everything done timely and it saves a lot of money. Like some pigs, they don't even notice.
Yeah.
It's a shot right behind the ear where there's like kind of fleshy area.
Yeah, nice little bit of muscle
Yeah,
there.
some of them won't notice and some of them will run away screaming. It's just like really individual. Ray is amazing temperament generally, but things like sedation or the Zinpro or pig shoot, he's a bit dramatic around for some reason.
Yeah, and another thing as well, because Ray, like we mentioned, is doing a really good job maintaining his weight. So he does have a fair amount of muscling, and I don't want to say it, but a bit of fat.
That's why we've ordered some specialty equipment recently.
Yeah, so that's why we have extra long needles on hand, like 3-inch needles.
Picture that.
Yeah,
our go-to
is
like usually 2 max for a lot of things we do here. 1.5 usually covers a lot of things, but 3
to get through all that fat to make sure that the drugs to make sure that the drugs go where they need to go into the muscle versus the fat.
Yeah, very important because some things you don't want.
Yeah, like
when
sedation,
we talk about IM,
especially.
it's literally intermuscular.
Yeah,
you don't want things going into fat. It doesn't. Is it metabolizing differently or something?
Usually a lot
or being
slower.
released later, which is very dangerous for sedation.
Yes, exactly. But it's a very good question, Sylvia. And
it's
on our list now.
Yeah. Maybe he does get admitted and do. I don't even know if he could have IV for like a week and then recheck. We'll have to see that. There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah,
the longer he's gone, it's harder to integrate.
Definitely.
And we did have to reintegrate him when he came back. He was gone for about 4 days, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was some bit of fighting, a bit of shuffling in the herd. So,
but it seems to have settled.
Oh yeah, that was only like really day one, but it still is an integration we're gonna have to do.
It's still tough on everyone. Like it's stressful for him, for us, for everyone else.
Yeah. Look at all these comments. This is so nice. Heaps is amazing. You all work so hard for your residents. I loved and support you. That is so lovely, Laura. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It is a ton of work. And some days you kind of do your usual routine, you do your usual meetings, everything, and then you'll have weeks where there's a ton happening. That was kind of like last week.
Yeah.
We have Winifred in at the vet. We're figuring out stuff with Ray. There's just Penelope has been lame. Herky's feeling sore this morning.
He's a little bit sore today.
Arthritic flare-ups. There's just kind of constantly a lot of assessments, a lot of figuring out meds, a lot of calls with our vet. We had one this morning.
Yeah, a lot of, exactly, reassessing. Sometimes it seems like it comes in waves as well, that sometimes things are chill for almost a week. And like you don't want to jinx it, but then all of a sudden.
We always knock on wood around here. There's a lot of
but I mean,
wood to knock on.
It's just the nature of this work, so
Yeah, and thanks to your donations, we're able to do this kind of stuff. We're able to send somebody in on emergency or have the funds ready to go. And things like the auction or becoming a monthly donor really help out with us having that peace of mind. Christina's asking, have they all settled in the new place?
Oh, absolutely.
I think pretty much right away for all of them, honestly.
Yeah, shockingly, and like I feel like we say this every time, but like we're so shocked. Like the move was so much more. It was awful for us.
Not overplanned.
It was
but
just right.
We put so much thought in, like even which pigs were being transported together
and in which order.
Yeah, we didn't want 2 that were kind of not super good friends being transported
separated for longer.
Too long and have them fight at the new property. It was just like we had so many graphs and charts and emails and papers and figuring that out. And then I think that's what did it, though. That's 100%, why they've settled so quickly.
100%. I mean, they were thrilled. I think from immediately, we were so stressed. We had
we took all the stress. They didn't have any stress.
We had like drugs ready for the pigs in case we needed
something called stress nail in case there was an episode. But they walked. I mean, other than Hercules, they walked off the trailer very calmly.
Yeah,
he dove off. He wasn't hurt, but like I don't know. The way he came off
It
the
was very
trailer
dramatic.
was no reason for that.
Yeah.
He was just very excited. But yeah, they all walked off and they all just started eating grass in the pasture, these big pastures that we had ready for them. And it was all fenced because we were able to do that before we moved.
Yeah.
And they just walked off and they're like, amazing. And they
guess
had
we
their
live here
friends,
now.
they had
Yeah.
their family, they
Yeah.
had us, they had
Yeah.
the usual smells. They all did a perimeter check. That was one of my favorite
Yes,
things. When
yeah,
they
all
got
of
off
them
the
going all the
trailer.
way around.
Yeah, the perimeter to see, checking the fence.
Yep. It's worth a shot, but yeah, like they all settled in amazing. I think we were most stressed about the pigs and the cats.
Yes.
And they did great. Even the cats, because we had them locked inside the break room for at least the first month.
I think it was at least a month.
Probably,
Yeah,
I
we
feel
had
like
planned
maybe
for at
even
least a month,
longer.
yeah.
But the cats did great. They're all, they for the most part, they know the routine. Sometimes Sadie likes to get a little bit feral at night, but we have a little routine.
But we didn't move with her.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
The Enrique and Claudia, like,
Showed up here in December.
They know the drill. They hear the dinner bell at
Yes.
nighttime, and they know it's time to go back to the break room at night. Huge property. We have lots of coyotes around here, so for
hear
their
them every
safety,
night.
yeah, they get locked up into the break room at night. But yeah, Sadie more or less knows the routine, but she's a little bit more squirrely, and she'll kind of
Like, I
go
don't
MIA.
have to listen to you
Yeah,
guys.
she's kind of like her like
I'm kinda new
rebellious
here.
teenage.
She's
yeah,
young, a little bit feral.
yeah, which is fine.
No, it's totally
It's
fine.
what we love
just
about
have
her.
to just makes our day extra exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just such a lovely episode. I mean, they all are, but all these
Aw.
comments that are coming in, the knowledge you have is so reassuring to all of us. We know they're in good, caring hands. We like to think so.
Oh.
We have spent a ton of time. Nicole went to school for vet med. I've done this for many years, even interned before this job, and just accumulating all this
Yeah,
knowledge.
there's a lot
and-
of experience between everyone
Yes,
here. Yeah,
like a accumulation of experience.
Definitely,
and,
yeah.
In a variety of different ways, and that's really helped us pull together all the protocols that we do, and the daily things. We're always reassessing those
yes,
things.
that's what I was gonna say, and just how we're not really set in our ways about everything. Like I think over the years we've really kind of figured out, how we like to do things and like our protocols for certain things. But we're always like reassessing and, learning as we go as well, because especially working with farmed animals where there's not a lot of information out there, especially, getting into complicated things like pig tusk removals or,
So we've not
weird
had to deal with
injuries.
before.
Yeah.
Or Winifred's broken toe. We've never had a pig with a broken toe before.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just these things, figuring them out internally and with our vets and with our vet team.
Yeah, and then that just kind of goes into like the shared knowledge base that we'll continue to pass on, hopefully for generations to come.
Super important because like we keep saying, there's just sometimes not a lot of information about these specialty cases, and sometimes we're all figuring it out in the moment and working maybe with other sanctuaries or different vet clinics to kind of pull that all together, because there's not a lot of information about these animals typically.
Yeah. So we're doing our best, and our vets are doing their best. So yeah.
Yes. Sometimes it's the first time they've seen a case, and we're just working through that all the time.
Yes.
How are the cows doing? Fantastic. They're all settling very
my
nicely.
gosh,
And
yeah.
if you donated to Pouty's fundraiser, you're gonna get to see them meet, which is very soon.
We're so excited.
Very soon. Very soon. We cannot wait. But they're all doing really well. They've settled really well.
Yeah, they're the most sweet, perfect little angels. Yeah, we're obsessed, and I love how much everyone else loved them. Like immediately, like that, like the Barnside where I don't know if that's where we announced them, maybe, or maybe it was a Bear Care.
It was the Barnside.
Maybe both, but just like everyone's like
The
all the
excitement.
hearts.
I
and
couldn't even keep up with the
excitement.
comments going by.
Yeah. So they are doing amazing, and
Super cute. They're so tall.
Yes.
I know, continue to be
so,
very
like,
tall.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they are amazing.
Exciting time. Having new residents is always an exciting time for everyone, and
Definitely.
figuring out their space. And part of that fundraiser was deciding what kind of things they will need for their integration. It'll probably include a larger barn if everything goes well and they do live together.
Yeah.
Extended pasture because they're going to need a lot of grass.
Yeah, and pastures to rotate into as well. All of the above.
So this is something that is currently being discussed because it is a very specific case, and I think we did talk about it on Barnside. I always lose track. I don't want to assume everybody knows everything that's going on, but we've run through a few different options with the vet, and a lot of them are quite tricky, like a screw,
which
could cause more damage.
They don't tend to hold up in pigs very well. So, it'd be good if we had a diagram, but I mean, everyone's homework is to like Google pig anatomy, because it's not the bone like at the very tip of her toe, it's the second one, so it's kind of like in the transition zone between like the hoof itself and then the leg. Like the coronary band is what runs between the two, so it's that bone,
like a cuticle area
exactly. So it's an awkward location, but it's also still a very small bone. Thankfully Winnie is a pretty small pig, like she's one of our smallest, but typically pins and plates don't do that well in pigs, just because their weight can kind of crush them, and they just don't tend to hold up as much.
You can't tell them to stay off their feet.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, stay in bed for a week to heal, she's not going to listen to us.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other options, like casting and prosthetics and stuff. So basically our vet team is kind of just working through those options and then getting some feedback, like presenting the case to a couple other doctors as well.
Yeah,
just
to
happening
today.
So fingers
kind of gone out broadly and looking for solutions for her. She'll definitely be home on very restricted stall rest. So stall rest is they're in a stall alone to reduce their activity, but she's going to need an even smaller space for a short period of time. Hopefully a short period of time to get that healed up properly.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, like what we want is just the edges of bone to like oppose properly and heal up. Because I think right now they're lined up, just not together. But the worst case scenario would be if they were not opposed, like if they were kind of going in different directions. That would cause her a lot more pain and discomfort long term.
Could be like surgery and
stuff. Exactly. And I mean, we have had a toe amputation before, but which we were able to manage quite well with Bobby. But again, that was a different situation. But I mean, and also a very extreme option.
And that in this case, with how Nicole said, it's not too bad in layman's terms. I think Bobby's was due to osteomyelitis.
It had to be done.
Stop the spread of infection. So she's not there. There's no infection that we know of. But it's like our usual vet team working with like a whole other team of people trying to figure out options. And I think they're kind of extrapolating some information that they do on like goats and sheep.
So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution for our sweet girl. But she's doing well in hospital. She's being a little bit sassy with the doctors, which I'm sorry, but we like to hear that she's feeling good.
It is a good sign.
I'd be more concerned if she was just
quiet,
sleeping.
Because she's not quiet here.
She's a sassy, busy little girl.
She's very busy.
So
hopefully that get some answers today or tomorrow about that. There have been a bunch of lameness, and we don't know how she broke her toe. Like it was just kind of happened. Penelope's been sore on her back.
Back left
since I just forget which one.
Sunday night, I think.
We fed them dinner, and I was like, "Ooh, she doesn't look quite right."
And then by Monday, she was still looking maybe worse or about the same. But she does have a little bit of kind of heat and sensitivity around that coronary band, that kind of cuticle transition zone. Because when I first saw her, initially I kind of thought maybe not a hoof issue. It was kind of giving
it
like
looked kind of like almost
upper,
the way she was walking.
And that's what I was thinking. But then we got her down for a belly rub, and we were moving her leg around just to kind of like assess the range of motion and how comfortable she was, and she wasn't bothered by any of that. But as we worked our way down the foot, we felt the heat and swelling around the coronary band. And then once I went to go spread out her toes, sometimes they just get things stuck in between their toes, and that's like best case scenario. You pull out a rock and you're like, oh my gosh, everything is fine now.
Such relief.
Unfortunately, it wasn't that, but as soon as I spread out her toes, like she's such a sweet girl, but she, swung around. She did not like it. So we were kind of able to, deduce it seems like it's more in that area. So she had a foot soak. She's getting pain meds.
We kind of have our pig lameness protocol, which includes a foot soak, even if we're not 100% sure if there's like an abscess or something, just to see if there's anything that it pulls out, which it didn't.
But
antibiotics, pain meds, kind of throw everything at her and see how she responds.
So fingers crossed. She does seem a little bit more, or definitely she seems more comfortable today, like mobility wise. She was out in the pasture rooting
Tells you a
around,
lot.
this morning.
She was laying down a lot yesterday. Yeah, kind of would eat dinner and then just lay down immediately, which nobody else was doing. So that really said a lot.
And not as sensitive to the touch either. I very cautiously spread her toes apart. I was like ready to jump, but she did very well.
Like extenders.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Big tongs or something.
Yeah, but she did better today. So
Amazing.
hopefully she continues to improve. Yeah, poor thing.
Yeah, tons of updates. So we can stand here and talk about the residents all day. But that was kind of the general update. Someone will keep you updated on Ray and Winifred and Penelope and Hercules, who's a little bit sad today with his toe. Just a reminder that we have the auction running right now. The online portion is until May 24th, and there's a link in the comments, and there's a ton of amazing things that you can bid on, and all that money goes toward the residents. So thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You're all so amazing. Thank you for your beautiful comments. It just makes our day so much brighter.
It really does.
Hope you have a good time today. I guess I don't know what I was trying to say. I'll see you again next time.
Bye. Thank you.